By the end of this episode of the derryX Dines podcast, you're going to wonder, why don't they make these cannoli crullers all year round? Now, what I'm talking about here in this particular episode is a very specific Italian pastry that is only available at this time of year. Now, when I say Italian pastry, I'm going to talk about some other places where I've found this pastry. And the goal here is to create some awareness around something. And in doing some research, I actually learned quite a lot about this pastry this year, something I've been eating my entire life that I'm excited to present here today. If you saw the thumbnail, it's a delicious pastry, and we're going to talk about it uh, in the context that I was brought up learning about it, and also some of the interesting things that I found out. So what we're talking about here is a very specific Italian pastry called the what do they call it? It's called Zeppoli di San Giuseppe. Now, I was raised Catholic. I would call myself a Reformed Catholic. I don't really practice religion often, and we're not going to get into any religion here. But there is a religious significance to this pastry, and I did a little bit of research on it. It's generally where I come from in Brooklyn, known as a very Catholic pastry. But I found that there are actually quite a lot of other origins that aren't Catholic in nature. And for that, I found a resource. This website, it looks like a bakery called Gambrinus, which is actually in Italy, where they actually talk about some of the origins of the St. Joseph pastry. Now, in America, we lean pretty heavily on St. Patrick's Day. I feel like we've kind of co-opted that holiday, and that's more an American holiday than even a religious holiday, honestly. Um, and I think that's the 17th. That's what, tomorrow, right? St. Joseph's Day in the Catholic thing is March 19th. The significance there is that my mom's name is Josephine. She was born on March 19th, named after St. Joseph. Coinciding with St. Joseph is these pastries. Now, if you look at these things, they're beautiful. It's one of those things where, if presented in a bakery like this, in a nice, elegant way, a little dusting of powdered sugar, what it is, it's kind of like a cream puff. So, like profiterole or like a choux pastry that is baked or fried. Generally, these are fried, and that's why they're also called Zeppoli, because it resembles kind of those same Zeppoli that you get at like a fair, where it's just fried dough. So that's what it is, and we'll talk about the cannoli cruller aspect of it. It's generally filled with this. What do you call this? A like a French custard. It's almost like a pudding, and it's not very sweet as far as the filling. I mean, it's dessert. It's dessert, so it's going to be sweet, but it's not supposed to be like, I hate using the word cloying, but it's not supposed to be something that's supposed to, be like a Boston cream filling. It's supposed to be a little bit lighter than that. You could see this here. It looks like the way they present it, you're supposed to eat it with a fork and knife, but we pick these things up and eat them like they're donuts and smash them into our faces. Now, the thing about these is, and I actually just posted a YouTube short about this just a few minutes ago, actually. There's a second version of these, and I'm going to scroll through and I want to talk about the significance of this. There's, like you could see here, this was very interesting to read. I'm going to read a little bit of it just to talk about the religious and also just historical things. And there's also a pagan, uh, there's a way this was observed in like a pagan hypothesis, the way, like, as far as historically how it goes. So it's pretty interesting. And the reason why I bring up the other version is because I'm going to show you some pictures over the years that I've taken of these. I have somebody here, Kathleen. Yes, they are called St. Joseph pastry. And I want to also mention that in the live chat right now, we have Jessica, who made it to her first one, and she hit us with a super chat, and I wanted to just thank her for that. She's been enjoying the videos here and the podcast, and I'm happy to have everybody here. Jessica, thank you so much for your support in the channel here. So, talking about these St. Joseph pastries, the main thing is, it looks like a lot of this goes back in time to Oh, hi, Charlene. Charlene has a baking channel herself, so I think she's gonna love the subject matter here. These pastries, you can see that on this website. There's a link to religion. Saint Joseph has been celebrated as like a patron saint of like baked good and baking. So uh, it's funny that there's kind of that whole thing, and that's how I was brought up knowing about the St. Joseph pastry. Where we come from in Brooklyn, well, just to give you um, some context of this pastry, where I am in upstate New York in Albany, where it's not really that common, or in Brooklyn, you could trip over a loaf of prosciutto bread and fall and face first into one of these pastries. Yeah, like I said, you can trip over a prosciutto bread and fall face first into one of these St. Joseph pastries in Brooklyn, where we come from. Up here, it ain't so common. But the cool thing about this whole thing is it's a delicious pastry. Now I'm rambling a little bit. Let me rein myself back in. There's not only a religious connotation here. There's a hypothesis of the origin going back to ancient Rome. And I thought this was really funny. They say 500 BC, and I will, let's see here. There we go. So I will read off here 500 BC, March 17th in ancient Rome, an important date. Liberalia was celebrated, parties in honor of the wine and wheat deities, Bacchus and Silenus. It was a day dedicated to wine and wheat fritters, which were fried in hot lard. It's really funny how a lot of these pastries, I mean, you can see, let me bring it back up here, this beautiful pastry. I mean, if you can tie that to a wine of something fried in lard made from wheat and wine, it's kind of interesting how it kind of evolved over the years. So there's that. But then I also read the pagan hypothesis, which says March 19th was always celebrated as the end of winter with the famous agrarian purification rites, in which in many southern countries, large bonfires are lit and they prepared large quantities of pancakes. It's really interesting to me that even the pagan, so we have the Roman, we have the pagan, and they all come down to this kind of pancake. So it's not a leavened, there's no like yeast or anything like that. So it's really cool that we have this thing called a zeppoli. And what I'd like to do, let me get to my notes. I do make notes for these podcasts because there are certain things that I want to make sure that I hit as far as what I'm talking about here. So I mentioned that there's two different varieties. There's what's known as the Zeppoli di San Giuseppe, which is Saint Joseph's Zeppoli, which is basically the picture that I've been showing you constantly here. So I got too many windows open. It's this one here that has that French custard. There's also a less elegant version. Come on, bring myself back on here. There you go. There's a less elegant version that's more of like a ball of shoe dough that's fried, and then there's a cannoli cream like spread over the top of it. Where I live now, I can't get that particular version, except they make the same version but fill it with cannoli cream, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about so that we I don't just keep rambling about it, because I do have pictures, and a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So here, there are both varieties, and you'll see on the surface they look exactly the same. It looks like when they serve these up, they didn't actually have the powdered sugar on the one on the top left there, which is interesting. I don't understand that. But the one on the bottom right has that French custard. You got your fake maraschino cherry. The one on the upper left, you'll notice the cream there is noticeably whiter, right? It's cannoli cream. They essentially fill it with cannoli cream instead of the French custard. Both have merits. I like both, and around this time of year, I like to losing track here. Around this time of year, I like to have both. Unfortunately, right now, I'm trying to limit sugar, so I haven't had any, but I'd like to. um, and the one that you saw in the thumbnail, so I organized this in the way I wanted to talk about it, but I'm talking about things in a completely different order. So the difference between the form and the filling, we got that Brooklyn versus upstate, and I mentioned my stupid joke about tripping over prosciutto bread into a face first into one of these things. They definitely look different from up here and down there, and then down there you can pretty much any Italian bakery is going to have it. Up here, there's only two bakeries that I know of in my immediate vicinity within like 15 minutes of me that have it. One is called Bella Napoli, and they do a good job. They let me see if I have, yeah, the picture I just showed you was Bella Napoli, but there's also Villa Italia, and you'll see this one here on the screen right now. There's no scale reference here. I guess the cherry is a scale reference. This one is considerably smaller than the one from Bella Napoli that I just showed you. What I don't like about this Villa Italia bakery, I'm gonna get on a soapbox for a minute here, guys, is that they don't have a set price for each of their pastries. So you go in there and there's no pricing. Everything is done by pound. So what you'll do is everybody does it, and this is I don't understand from a business perspective. And like I said, I'm on a tangent right now. What for your staff to have to answer this question all day long? It's kind of an annoying thing for a customer. It's annoying to have to ask this and then get the answer that you get. If I ask how much does one of these cost, and you have to pick one up and go weigh it and then walk back over to me, that's not efficient. There should be some average price that you could tell me, even if you say, oh, usually they're between $2 and $3, like because they're not going to be filled consistently, or just do an average over 1,000 of these things and set a price. I mean, it's not that difficult. So at this place, Villa Italia, their pastries are exceptional. They're very good. It's one of the best bakeries around here, but these are small when you get them there. I haven't gotten them at Villa Italia in quite a while, and I really would like to. Um, I was actually looking for them today at a place called Price Chopper. So here's another picture of one. This one appears to be the cannoli cream version. A little bit more powdered sugar on this one. You can see from Bella Napoli Italian Bakery. They have two locations. This is not an advertisement for them. When you're the only one of the only places in town, it's hard to avoid advertising for places. But yeah, again, very good. The pastry itself is like a cruller. So think like the discontinued. Now we're getting on another soapbox. So think the discontinued Dunkin' Donuts French cruller, which you can't get anymore apparently. It's like that, but it's filled with this French custard or cannoli cream. Excellent stuff. Kathleen saying in the chat, so hard to find a good Italian bakery outside a major metro city, especially in the Northeast. Lived in the South for several years. No good Italian food. I can understand that for sure. We spend some time at the Outer Banks, and I don't look for Italian food down there. Let's put it that way. I don't think I'm going to get it, and it's fine. The other thing about the St. Joseph pastries, usually this time of year, they make this thing on the left also, which is called a lobster tail. That is filled with a even lighter cream, but that's another side note. This is from a different year where am I? There I am. Where I of course have to get one of each of the St. Joseph pastries, and this year I was a little bad, and I also got the lobster tail. You got to live a little too, guys. Let's get myself back in here. Now, here was the funny one. I'm going to cut to the chase on this one because this was the title of the video, and I'm sure a lot of people are like, "What the heck is a cannoli cruller?" So this is the only historical evidence I have of this existing, and this is not a Photoshop. This is exactly what I purchased, and this cannoli cruller was something that I bought at my local supermarket called Price Chopper. And I was so surprised to find this at Price Chopper, and this is years ago. I don't know how long ago. I probably do have a date on this that I can look up. It appears this was taken in 2013. So this is 10 years old. Where do you go? Here you go. I don't want info there. Too many controls in these things. So this it says cannoli cruller, and this was the funniest thing to me because I never in my life have called it anything other than Saint Joseph pastry, San Giuseppe, Zeppoli, whatever they want to call it. So when I saw cannoli cruller, it is such an on the nose name, and it describes it so well, but also manages to kind of co-opt the entire thing, and like it almost steals the soul of the whole thing. Not that I really care about the religious connotation, um aside from the fact that my mom is named after the holiday that it's kind of all celebrated from. But this cannoli cruller is such a, oh, what's the right word that I'm trying to say? It's just an amazing, it's an amazing, it's like an Americanized, even though it's an American pastry, really, I guess, because the people who were doing it back in the day were making wine and wheat pancakes fried in lard. Let's see what other pictures I got here. Now, the cool thing about these pastries, I'm going to bring back up the lobster tail one again. It's amazing. I don't know how they make these flaky layered pastries that, I mean, if made correctly, it looks like a lobster tail. I hate when they coat it in powdered sugar like that because you really can't, it's so hard to see the, what do you call it? Like the texture and all the stuff. It's such a beautiful pastry, and it really hurts to see them, coat everything in powdered sugar like that. People love powdered sugar, so you can't go wrong with that. Plus, they got to make it look nice. If they didn't put powdered sugar, it would look various shades of brown, which I'm sure is not exactly appetizing. Let's see what other pictures I got here for you guys. Here's a cool one. So these here, my parents actually don't live in my immediate vicinity. They live 2 hours away at a place called Orange County, New York, Middletown, where I spent a lot of my life. And this is from a bakery called Di Filippi's Bakery, which is local to where they are. You'll see here there's both types, but they also took the shortcut, making all of them kind of this um like textured kind of pastry. The one I have my mouse hovered over right now is the cannoli cream one. And if you're listening to this in podcast form, just to describe it, it's kind of like if you imagine a French cruller from Dunkin' Donuts that's split down the middle and filled with cannoli cream, and then into the hole they put more cream. So that's that one. And then to the left of it, these guys have a vanilla custard and then also a chocolate custard. That's kind of that black and white effect going on there on the St. Joseph pastry, which I think this picture is from 2022. And I think 2021, my parents got the same one, the same type of pastry. And I think before then, I hadn't seen them like that. So this is also an interesting kind of, thing. Notice, and I saw Jessica actually put in the chat here the fettuccine cherry. All of these pastries, whether it is the Zeppoli or the Sfingi version, which is the cannoli cream filled version, which is more of a southern Italy thing, um, they have that maraschino cherry, which it's it's just the delight on top. It's the cherry on top, right? It's kind of the whole thing. Presentation's key for pastries. Powdered sugar makes it look more appetizing. Yeah, Kathleen, I'm exactly with you. Kathleen saying that in the chat right now, and that's my whole thing. Like I said, it would be a lovely 20 shades of brown if we didn't have that. So there was that. Now let me pull back up my notes, guys. Bear with me here just a second. So we talked about Brooklyn versus upstate, and when I say Brooklyn versus upstate, I mentioned that up here we don't have many, but in Brooklyn they're all over the place. But also, when I worked in my dad's store, there was a place called Sal and Jerry's Bakery where we used to go down there weekly and pick them up around this time of year. It was always a customer service thing that we would provide this pastry for I think most of the month of March, but most bakeries don't have it for very long. I haven't gone. So I actually went this is the level of obsession we're dealing with here, guys. Let me tell you what happened this morning. I woke up this morning and I said, "You know what? I've been thinking about this damn pastry so much, and I've been thinking about how hilarious it was that Price Chopper had the cannoli cruller. Let me go to Price Chopper on my way into work and see if I could find it." So I went to the Price Chopper, and the Price Chopper over here is actually we have we have Price Choppers all over the place. The one that I went to happens to be the area's only kosher Price Chopper. There's aside from the baking section, there's a small part of the store that is and Jessica, I think you're going to appreciate this part of the story. There's a small portion of the store that has a lot of brands that are, very kosher. Um Things that it's not like your typical Manischewitz and those other things that you would find in kind of the small kosher section of the grocery store. Um Brands that I had never seen before. And I expected them to have this and also labeled with the cannoli cruller, but I have to check another Price Chopper, and I don't know if I'll get to it tomorrow or not. But I want to see if another Price Chopper has it around now, or if it was just an anomaly. Maybe the kosher Price Chopper wasn't making it, um, or maybe they just stopped making it at all Price Choppers altogether. So that was the first stop this morning. The second stop was about 4 or 5 miles away from that. There's a shop right where at this shop right there they have um a lot of baked goods that are kind of New York City inspired. So they'll have a lot of cheesecakes, they'll have tiramisu, more they have more things that are less common up here in their baked section than other supermarkets, if that makes sense. Did I say that? H- I don't even know what I said there. What I'm trying to say is more of the New York City pastries and baked goods would be common to find at Price Chopper over Price ShopRite over Price Chopper. Price Chopper will have your bagels and donuts and things like that. We talked about donuts extensively last week, including their donuts. ShopRite has like cheesecake, tiramisu, cannoli, those types of things. ShopRite didn't have them either today. It's the 16th, so we only got 3 days until St. Joseph. I know Villa Italia and Bella Napoli are going to have them, but I don't know. They're not exactly easy for me to get to on my way to work or anything like that. I mean, I guess they are, but um, I like sleeping and I like drinking my coffee in the morning too. So there's that. But let me pull back up my pictures and just make sure I've showed you guys everything I wanted to show you, because that was I killed myself to dig through and find these pictures. Oh, here's the other one I want to show you guys. So this is another year that I got the cannoli cruller. This is when was this? Ah, we got our little Wayback Machine here. 2013 also. So this is the same year as the other one. That can't be right. I think that can't be right. I think that might just be when I dropped them in because that's the same date. All right. Anyway, this one here it's funny to me because notice they added the little green. So marketing is important. What's also around this time of year is St. Patty's Day. So you see the green there. That's what they did to sell it. Just they put a little bit of green coconut on top. Um, I don't remember the coconut there actually affecting the flavor, but it is kind of funny to see coconut on top of this. And that actually reminds me, and the other cannoli cruller, I think on top of here, I don't know what that is. Let me look a little closely. I want to say cashews or maybe shredded coconut. It's a very odd topping. If you know what that is, leave it in the comments. Cuz yeah, I can't place it. Maybe sliced almonds? Sliced walnuts? It's got to be some kind of nut. And I was actually surprised when I found this picture because I thought there was no evidence of cannoli cruller. Oh, I see what happened. Okay, so this one was found February 24th, which is actually about 3 weeks ahead of St. Joseph pastry. This was taken on my Samsung phone. Yeah, it looks like Jessica's confirming my suspicion that's a nut. I think it's got to be walnut or something. And this one was taken on a Google Pixel 3. No, I think that's when I edited the picture. Anyway, oh, I see what happened. This was taken in 2021. I'm looking in the wrong place. I was looking over here where it says this, but this actually is the range. So this is March 19th. This is 2015. Okay. So there we go. But yeah, this cannoli cruller thing is a fun little thing. Now I didn't intend this episode to go as long as last week's because we were just talking about one pastry here. But what I do want to say is, if you enjoy this episode, I know you're going to find other stuff on the channel here you're going to enjoy, including other episodes of the podcast. If you're watching this in the replay, I'll leave some of that on the screen for you to watch. Or I've already left a few videos in the description. Some of them are actually about this pastry. Again, thank you so much for the super chats, and for showing up tonight and being in the live stream. It means so much to me, guys. Jessica, Kathleen, I saw Charlene in here as well. And earlier on, there was Elijah in here as well. Thank you so much for all your support. And I have a new video coming Sunday, not a podcast. It is about getting kicked out of In-N-Out Burger. With that, have a great evening, great weekend, and I will talk to you guys next week. Next week, I will talk a little bit more about getting kicked out of In-N-Out Burger. See you then.